I knew we were in trouble the moment the alien diplomat laughed during my firearms demonstration. Not because he was mocking our weapons. I'd gotten used to their condescension over the past month of diplomatic relations. No, what worried me was the way his personal shield flickered as my primitive bullet passed straight through it, leaving a neat hole in the concrete wall behind him. The laughter stopped immediately. In the sudden silence, I could hear brass hitting concrete as I automatically ejected the spent shell, muscle memory from thousands of hours of training taking over. My fingers stayed off the trigger. Some habits don't die, even when you're staring at an 8-foot-tall alien whose shield just catastrophically failed. Impossible, the diplomat, Vattel, hissed through his translator. His iridescent scales shifted from their usual calm blue to an angry red. Your primitive kinetic weapons cannot penetrate consortium shielding technology. Next to me, Doc Sullivan pushed his wire-rimmed glasses up his nose. A habit I'd learned meant he was about to say something that would either get us killed or change the world. Fascinating. It appears your shields are calibrated for energy weapons, but have minimal effect on simple kinetic projectiles. Rather like trying to stop a stone with an electromagnetic field. I kept my stance relaxed, but ready as Vattel's guard detail shifted their positions. Their energy rifles looked a lot less impressive now. "Doc," I said quietly, "maybe not the best time for a physics lesson." "On the contrary, Mr. Chen," Doc replied, pulling out his tablet. "This is exactly the time for a physics lesson. You see, the consortium's technological development followed a completely different path than ours. They went straight from chemical explosives to energy weapons, never developing firearms as we know them. Their defensive technology evolved accordingly." Vattel's scales were practically glowing now. "You will cease this discussion immediately. This demonstration is over." He turned to leave, his guards forming up around him. "Of course," I said, keeping my voice level. "Though you might want to warn your infiltration teams that their shields won't stop Earth weapons. Professional courtesy." The alien diplomat froze mid-step. "Explain." "Well, either you're the worst actor in the galaxy, or you genuinely didn't know your shields were vulnerable to bullets. Since your species has been dealing with humans for a month now, that means you haven't been testing your defenses against our weapons. The only reason not to do that basic research is if you were planning to use those shields in combat soon, and didn't want us to know they were vulnerable." Doc was typing furiously on his tablet. "The energy signature readings I've been getting from their compound. Marcus, they're not just running a diplomatic mission, they're staging for something big." Vattel turned back to us, his translator struggling to keep up with his rapid speech. "You understand nothing, primitive. Your weapons are toys compared to consortium technology. This shield malfunction changes nothing." I chambered another round, the sound impossibly loud in the concrete range. "Want to test that theory?" Everything happened at once. Vattel barked an order, his guards raised their rifles, and I dove behind the range barrier, dragging Doc with me. Energy bolts scorched the air where we'd been standing. "Still think this was the best time for a physics lesson?" I asked Doc as we crawled toward the armory door. "Absolutely," he replied, somehow still clutching his tablet. "We've just confirmed that an entire alien civilization has no defense against ballistic weapons. This changes everything about the coming invasion." A bolt of plasma melted through the barrier near my head. "Let's survive the next 5 minutes first." We made it to the armory door, and I quickly punched in my access code. Inside was every firearms instructor's dream, racks of weapons from pistols to anti-material rifles, and enough ammunition to start a small war. Or in this case, maybe stop one before it started. "They're calling for reinforcements," Doc said, reading from his tablet. "Energy signatures showing multiple ships breaking orbit. We need to warn everyone." "Already on it." I grabbed my personal rifle, a modified M40, a 7 that I'd used during my Marine Corps days, and tossed Doc a pistol. "But first, we need to make sure Vattel doesn't leave this facility. He knows their weakness now. If he reports back, they'll develop countermeasures," Doc finished, checking the pistol with surprising competence. At my raised eyebrow, he shrugged. I test everything I study. The sound of energy weapons grew closer, accompanied by the heavy footsteps of more alien troops. I set up my rifle near a ventilation duct that offered a good view of the main corridor. How many? Doc consulted his tablet. Reading 12 energy signatures, not counting Vattel. Their weapons are charging up to maximum power. Trying to overwhelm us with pure energy. I settled into position, muscle memory taking over again. You know, for an advanced species, they're not very tactical. The first alien warrior rounded the corner, energy rifle glowing with gathered power. I squeezed the trigger once. The .308 round punched through his shield like it wasn't there, and the alien dropped. His companions immediately opened fire, filling the corridor with plasma bolts that melted chunks out of the walls. Their shield frequency is rotating, Doc reported from behind me, trying to find a setting that blocks kinetic weapons. Another shot, another fallen alien. Let me know if they succeed. Actually, this is fascinating. The shields appear to be powered by micro-singularity generators. Adjusting them to stop physical objects would require so much energy that… Doc, yes or no? Oh, no. They can't stop bullets without making their shields so dense they wouldn't be able to move. I allowed myself a small smile as I chambered another round. Good to know. The aliens had pulled back around the corner, presumably realizing that charging forward wasn't working. I heard rapid clicks from their translators as they discussed options. They're calling in air support, Doc warned. We have maybe 10 minutes before they level this building. Then we better finish this fast. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, quickly dialing the base commander. When it connected, I spoke rapidly. General, this is Marcus Chen. The alien diplomatic mission is hostile. Their shields don't stop bullets. I repeat, conventional weapons are effective. They have ships incoming. Recommend immediate mobilization and alert all forces that firearms are still primary weapons. The general's response was immediate and profane, but professional. Within seconds, alarms began blaring throughout the base. Marcus, Doc's voice was urgent. Vattel is making a break for their shuttle. He's using his guards as shields. I shifted position, finding a new angle through a damaged section of wall. Through my scope, I could see the alien diplomat running in the center of a tight formation of guards. Their shields were overlapped, creating a dome of energy that deflected small arms fire from the base security forces. Distance? I asked. 412 meters, Doc replied. Wind negligible inside the base. Their shields are weakest at the apex of the overlap. I took a breath, letting it out slowly as my crosshairs settled on a point just above the formation. Physics is physics, whether you're shooting at a paper target or an alien invasion force. Balance, breath, and pulse account for drop, squeeze, don't pull. The shot rang out, and Vattel's head snapped back. His guards scattered as he fell, their formation broken. Base security swarmed in, conventional weapons blazing. Within seconds, it was over. Direct hit, Doc said unnecessarily, though I wish we could have taken him alive for questioning. I safed my rifle and stood, muscles protesting after maintaining position for so long. He wouldn't have talked, but his death sends a message. Humanity isn't as primitive as they thought. Doc was already examining the fallen aliens' equipment, like a kid at Christmas. These shield generators alone will advance our technology by decades, though I suspect we'll be sticking with good old-fashioned bullets for a while longer. Doc, their friends are still coming. This was just the advance team. He looked up from his scavenging, eyes bright with excitement. Yes, but now we know their weakness, and we have something they don't. What's that? 10,000 years of experience killing things the old-fashioned way. I helped him gather the alien tech as base personnel swarmed around us, securing the area and preparing for what was coming. In the distance, I could hear the distinctive sound of F-35s taking off, good old-fashioned human engineering ready to demonstrate why primitive doesn't mean ineffective. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They'd assumed that technological advancement only moved in one direction, that their path of development was the only valid one. They'd forgotten that technology wasn't about having the flashiest weapons, but about having the right tools for the job. And sometimes the right tool is a well-aimed bullet from a so-called primitive gun. Doc and I spent the next few hours briefing military commanders and weapons developers, explaining what we'd learned about alien shield technology. The coming war wouldn't be easy. The consortium had numbers and space superiority on their side. But we had our own advantages, weapons they couldn't stop, and the experience to use them. As I watched Doc demonstrate the shield's vulnerability to kinetic weapons for a group of generals, I couldn't help but remember Vattel's laughter during the demonstration. In the end, that moment of alien arrogance might have saved humanity. They'd shown their hand too early, given us time to prepare. I checked my phone, reading reports of alien ships entering the atmosphere over major cities worldwide. Time to show them just how effective primitive weapons could be. "Ready for what's coming?" Doc asked, joining me by the window. I chambered a round into my rifle, the sound as reassuring as ever. "They're about to learn why you don't bring an energy shield to a gunfight." Above us, the sky began to fill with alien ships. But this time, we were ready. This time, we knew that humanity's oldest weapons might just be our greatest advantage. Vattel's last words about our primitive weapons kept echoing in my mind. I had a feeling the entire consortium would soon learn just how wrong they'd been to underestimate human ingenuity. After all, we'd spent our entire history finding new ways to throw very small pieces of metal very fast at things we didn't like. And we'd gotten very, very good at it. The museum curator thought I was crazy when I asked to test fire the Revolutionary War musket. He stopped laughing when it punched through alien armor like paper. "Remarkable," Doc exclaimed, examining the hole in the test barrier. "The lower velocity actually improves penetration against their shields. The slower speed gives their defensive systems less time to react." He ran his fingers along the ancient Brown Bess musket's barrel, treating it with the reverence usually reserved for advanced technology. 3 weeks had passed since our confrontation with Vattel, and the aliens were winning. Their ships controlled the skies, their troops had landed in every major city, and their energy weapons were slowly but surely overwhelming Earth's military forces. The only thing keeping humanity in the fight was our discovery about kinetic weapons, but even that advantage was slowly slipping away. "They're adapting," I said, checking the powder load in the musket. "Modern bullets are becoming less effective as they tune their shields to different velocities. We need alternatives they can't predict." Doc nodded, pulling out his ever-present tablet. "That's why we're here. The Smithsonian's weapons collection spans centuries of human innovation. If we can find patterns in what works best against their shields, we might find an edge." The museum's basement had become our impromptu testing facility, rows of historical weapons laid out like a timeline of human warfare. Everything from atlatls to Zweihanders waited to be evaluated against alien technology. "Next test," Doc announced, setting up new sensor equipment. "Let's try something from the medieval period." I picked up a crossbow, its wooden stock smooth from centuries of handling. The weapon felt alive in a way modern firearms didn't, like it carried the weight of its history in every fiber. Simple mechanical energy, no gunpowder signature for them to detect. Exactly. Their sensors are calibrated for chemical explosions and energy weapons. A purely mechanical projectile might. The wall exploded. I tackled Doc behind a display case as alien troops poured through the breach, their shields glowing in the dust-filled air. Their translators filled the room with overlapping voices. "Terminate the weapons experts. The primitives must not be allowed to continue weapons development." I reached for my M40, but it was on the other side of the room. The crossbow was still in my hands. "Well," I muttered, "time for a practical test." The first bolt caught an alien warrior square in the chest. His shield didn't even flicker. The projectile passed through as if the barrier wasn't there, striking with centuries-old precision. The alien fell without a sound. "Data collected," Doc shouted from behind cover, his tablet somehow still functioning. The crossbow bolt was completely invisible to their detection systems. I grabbed another bolt from the display. Less analysis, more survival. The aliens had split up, trying to flank our position. Their energy weapons turned centuries-old artifacts into slag, but they were moving cautiously now, uncertain about what other surprises we might have. "Marcus," Doc called out. 3 o'clock, weapon rack. I glanced where he indicated and couldn't help grinning. Displayed on the wall was a Native American atlatl, a spear-throwing lever that predated written history. Next to it, a collection of reproduction spears waited to demonstrate proper throwing technique. "Sometimes older is better," I said, grabbing the weapons. The atlatl felt awkward compared to my usual rifle, but the principle was the same. Use mechanical advantage to throw a projectile at high speed. The next alien to round the corner caught a prehistoric spear through his shield and torso. His companions pulled back, translators chattering in confusion as they tried to understand what was happening. "Their shields are programmed with recognition patterns," Doc explained, his voice excited despite the situation. "They know what bullets look like, what energy weapons look like. But these weapons are so old, so simple, they might as well be sticks and stones to their sensors." "Great," I replied, loading another spear. "We can win the war with museum pieces. I'm sure the Joint Chiefs will love that plan." "Actually," Doc's voice had that tone again, the one that meant he was about to suggest something either brilliant or suicidal. "What if we could combine old and new? Take these ancient weapon designs and upgrade them with modern materials." An energy bolt melted through the display case next to us. "Kind of busy right now, Doc." "No, listen. These weapons worked because they were simple, elegant designs that maximized mechanical advantage. With modern materials and manufacturing." I threw another spear, buying us time to think. He had a point. The principles behind these weapons were sound, proven by centuries of use. If we could update them without losing what made them effective against alien shields. "We need to get out of here first," I said. "Ideas?" Doc looked around frantically, then pointed to a massive display in the corner. "How strong are you feeling?" I followed his gaze and saw it. A replica Gatling gun, carefully restored to working condition. Next to it, boxes of reproduction ammunition waited for demonstration days. "You're insane," I said, already moving toward it. "I love it." Together, we manhandled the ancient weapon into position, its multiple barrels pointing toward the breach in the wall. The aliens were regrouping, preparing for another push. "You know," Doc said as he helped me load the ammunition, "the Gatling gun was considered revolutionary because it solved the problem of barrel overheating through mechanical rotation rather than complex cooling systems." "Doc?" "Yes?" "Less history, more shooting." The first alien through the breach discovered that 19th century engineering worked just fine in the 21st century. The Gatling gun roared to life, its hand-cranked mechanism spitting lead just like it had 150 years ago. Aliens fell as primitive bullets ignored their advanced shields. "Fall back," their commander ordered. "The primitives have accessed the weapons vault." We held our position until base security arrived, drawn by the distinctive sound of the Gatling gun. As the aliens retreated, Doc was already photographing and scanning every weapon we'd used. "This changes everything," he said, examining the crossbow bolt that had claimed our first kill. "We don't need to match their technology. We just need to understand why these simpler weapons work so well." I looked at the collection of historical weapons around us: spears, bows, muskets, and more. Each one represented a step in human innovation, a solution to the eternal problem of warfare, and each one, apparently, was invisible to alien defensive systems. "Get your research team down here," I told Doc. "I want every weapon tested, every design principle analyzed. And then I want prototypes that combine the best of old and new." He was already making calls. The manufacturing implications alone. We could create hybrid weapons that look like antiques to their sensors but hit like modern artillery. Over the next few days, the museum basement became a combination research lab and weapons factory. Engineers and historians worked side by side, analyzing ancient weapons and finding ways to improve them with modern materials. We discovered that compound bows made with carbon fiber could punch through alien armor at ranges that would have seemed impossible to their medieval inventors. Roman-style torsion artillery, rebuilt with high-tension synthetic cables, could launch projectiles that devastated alien ground forces. Even simple slings, when loaded with tungsten projectiles, proved devastatingly effective. The aliens couldn't understand what was happening. Their sensors showed no threat until primitive projectiles were already tearing through their lines. Each attempt to adapt their shields only left them vulnerable to a different type of ancient weapon. Word spread. Resistance groups around the world began raiding museums and historical sites, arming themselves with weapons their ancestors would have recognized. The aliens had expected to fight a modern military force. Instead, they found themselves facing everything from Zulu warriors with high-tech assegais to Japanese hunters with compound Yumi bows. Latest reports are encouraging, Doc told me one evening as we tested a modernized ballista. The aliens are losing ground in urban areas. Their shields are useless against weapons they can't detect, and they're too committed to their technology to adapt. I examined the ballista's composite prod, marveling at how seamlessly the carbon fiber blended with the ancient design. How long until they figure it out? That's the beautiful part, he replied, adjusting the weapon's tension. Their entire civilization is built around energy manipulation. The idea of purely mechanical weapons is so foreign to them that they can't even conceive of the solution. Their sensors keep looking for power signatures, energy readings, anything that fits their understanding of technology. And finding nothing but death from the past, I finished. The ballista's projectile destroyed its target, the carbon fiber bolt passing through alien armor as easily as its ancient Roman predecessor would have penetrated a wooden shield. We're ready for mass production, Doc announced. Every resistance cell, every military unit can be equipped with weapons that look primitive but hit harder than anything the aliens have. I helped him reset the ballista, thinking about how far we'd come since that first confrontation with Vattel. The aliens had expected to find a primitive species playing with forces we didn't understand. Instead, they found that our primitive solutions were the one thing their advanced technology couldn't counter. They're launching a major offensive tomorrow, I said, checking my tablet. Testing some new type of shield they think will stop everything we have. Doc smiled, patting the ballista. Let them try. Humanity didn't survive this long by relying on just one type of weapon. We'll find another way through. We always do. I looked at our workshop, where ancient and modern technologies merged into something unique, something that might just save our species. The aliens thought they were fighting primitives. They were about to learn that sometimes the old ways were best. Ready the weapons, I told our team. Tomorrow we show them why humanity's arsenal spans millennia, not just decades. Doc nodded, already preparing for the coming battle. Around us, the sounds of manufacturing filled the air as we built tomorrow's weapons from yesterday's designs. The aliens were powerful, advanced, and completely unprepared for what was coming. After all, how do you fight an enemy who can kill you with weapons your sensors insist don't exist? We were about to show them exactly how primitive we weren't. They thought disabling our electronics would win them the war. They forgot humans spent thousands of years killing each other without batteries. I watched from our hidden bunker as the alien EMP weapon detonated, turning night into day. Across the valley, every electronic device went dark. Cars stopped, phones died, and modern weapons fell silent. In the sudden darkness, I heard alien translators announcing their victory. Primitives, your technological resistance ends now. Surrender, and the consortium will be merciful. Next to me, Doc was smiling. Actually smiling. They really don't understand us at all, do they? I picked up my new weapon, a composite bow that looked like it belonged in a medieval army, but was built with materials that wouldn't exist for another 1,000 years. Shall we explain it to them? The past month had led to this moment. While the aliens were developing their ultimate EMP weapon, we had been preparing for exactly this scenario. Every resistance cell, every military unit had been equipped with our hybrid weapons, tools that combined ancient principles with modern materials, all designed to work without a single electronic component. All units execute Operation Longbow. I spoke into a mechanical radio, a device Doc had created based on World War I technology. No electronics meant no vulnerability to EMP. Across the valley, thousands of weapons that predated electricity came to life. The sound started as a whisper, the hiss of arrows, the thump of trebuchets, the snap of torsion artillery. Then came the impacts. Alien shields flickered uselessly as prehistoric principles met modern materials. Carbon fiber arrows tipped with tungsten penetrated their advanced armor. Composite ballistas launched projectiles that ignored their defensive screens. Modernized Greek fire, a mixture Doc insisted I never ask about, burned through their hull plating. Magnificent, Doc breathed, watching through mechanical binoculars. Look at how their sensors are trying to track the projectiles. They still think everything must have an energy signature. I knocked another arrow, the carbon fiber limbs of my bow flexing smoothly. They're about to learn some very old lessons. The alien response was predictable. They charged our positions, energy weapons blazing. Their translators broadcast threats and demands for surrender. But in the darkness, with their sensors blind to our weapons, they were fighting ghosts. Second wave, on my mark, I called through the mechanical radio network. At my signal, another volley of ancient weapons launched their deadly payloads. Marcus, Doc's voice was urgent. They're bringing in their heavy armor. Those walking fortresses they used in Berlin. I watched the massive alien war machines stride through their own lines. Each one was a towering monster of metal and energy shields, impervious to most modern weapons even before the EMP. Perfect, I said. Signal the Greek units. From hidden positions, dozens of modernized gastrophetes, ancient Greek belly bows upgraded with hydraulic systems and composite materials took aim. Their massive projectiles were based on the same principles Alexander's armies had used to penetrate fortress walls. The alien machines never saw the attack coming. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons and high-velocity projectiles, might as well have been missed against the slow, heavy bolts. Armor crumpled, joints shattered, and the mighty war machines fell. The ancients knew a thing or two about bringing down giants, Doc commented, making notes on paper, old school, just like our weapons. Though I doubt they imagined their designs would one day help save humanity. A new sound filled the air, the rhythmic beating of rotors. Our mechanical helicopters, rebuilt World War II designs stripped of all electronics, rose from hidden hangars. Each one carried weapons that would have been familiar to soldiers centuries ago, updated with modern materials and precision engineering. To think, Doc mused as we watched them engage the alien aircraft. We had to go backwards to move forwards, strip away everything complex until we found the pure principles that made these weapons work. The aliens were falling back now, their formations broken by weapons their advanced technology insisted weren't there. Their translators broadcast confusion and disbelief. Impossible, they have no functioning technology. How are they targeting without computers? Fall back to orbit. But we weren't done. Not yet. Signal the final phase, I ordered. Across the battlefield, our forces unveiled our ultimate weapon, Doc's masterpiece. He called it the Hybrid Siege Engine, or HSE. I called it proof that humanity's greatest strength was our ability to learn from our past. The HSE looked like something from a medieval nightmare, reimagined by modern engineers. Based on the principles of Chinese repeating crossbows, but scaled up and built with materials that wouldn't exist for centuries. It could launch precise volleys of projectiles without any electronic components. All HSE units, open fire, I commanded. The air filled with the sound of mechanical vengeance. thousands of projectiles, each one perfectly designed to slip through alien shields, streaked skyward. The aliens' orbital support ships, already struggling to target our forces without electronic signatures to lock onto, found themselves under attack from weapons their computers couldn't classify. "They're breaking orbit," Doc reported, watching through his telescope. "Their flagship is signaling full retreat." I knocked one final arrow, taking aim at an alien commander trying to rally his troops. "Let's give them something to remember us by." The shot flew true, passing through his shields like they weren't there. As he fell, his translator broadcast his final words to all channels. How did primitives defeat the most advanced army in the galaxy? Doc keyed his mechanical radio. Because true advancement isn't about abandoning the past, it's about learning from it. The retreat became a rout. Alien ships fled Earth's atmosphere, leaving behind their advanced but useless technology. In cities around the world, resistance forces armed with hybrid weapons mopped up the remaining invaders. As the sun rose over our victory, I found Doc already sketching new designs. Planning for their return? He nodded, not looking up from his work. "They'll be back, and they'll try to adapt. But that's the beauty of our solution, there's nothing to adapt to. We're not using any technology they can detect or counter. We've stripped warfare down to its purest physical principles." I examined my bow, a weapon design older than written history, rebuilt with materials that represented the pinnacle of human engineering. "Think they'll ever understand what really happened here?" "Probably not," Doc replied. "Their civilization never went through the phases ours did. They never had to solve problems without energy manipulation. Never had to rely on pure mechanical advantage and physical principles. They skipped straight to the complex solutions without learning the simple ones." Around us, our forces were gathering the alien dead and salvaging what technology we could use. Already, engineers were studying their equipment, looking for ways to combine their advanced materials with our ancient designs. "You know what the real irony is?" Doc asked, finally looking up from his sketches. "If they had just respected our primitive weapons instead of dismissing them, they might have won. They had numbers, technology, space superiority. But they lost because they couldn't imagine being defeated by weapons they considered obsolete." I helped him gather his papers, each one containing designs that blended past and future in ways the aliens couldn't comprehend. "What do you think they'll tell their people about this defeat?" "Oh, they'll probably claim we had some secret advanced technology. They'll never admit they were defeated by principles so basic that their sensors couldn't even detect them." He paused, considering. "Though I suppose, in a way, that's exactly what happened. Our secret technology was remembering that simple doesn't mean primitive." The mechanical radio crackled with reports from around the globe. Everywhere, the story was the same. Hybrid weapons had trumped alien technology. Humanity had faced extinction and survived by reaching into our past to secure our future. "We should document this," Doc said suddenly. "Write down exactly how we did it. Not just the weapons designs, but the principle behind them. Future generations need to understand that progress isn't always about complexity." I looked at the battlefield, where weapons spanning human history had come together to save our species. "I think they'll remember. The aliens certainly will." Doc packed away his designs, but not before I caught glimpse of something that looked suspiciously like a modernized Roman scorpion. "Already planning for the next war?" "Planning for peace, actually, but peace through strength. We've proven that humanity's greatest weapons aren't our most advanced ones, they're our simplest. The pure physical principles that have worked for thousands of years." Above us, the sky was clear of alien ships for the first time in months. Earth's armies were armed with weapons that combined the best of our past and present. And somewhere out there, the consortium was learning a lesson about underestimating primitive species. They had tried to win by taking away our modern technology. Instead, they had forced us to remember that humanity's greatest strength wasn't our electronics or our computers. It was our ability to take the simple, the ancient, the primitive, and make it deadlier than anything their advanced civilization could imagine. Let them call us primitives. We take it as a compliment. After all, sometimes the old ways are best, especially when they're backed by modern engineering and 10,000 years of human ingenuity. The aliens had learned that lesson the hard way, and if they ever came back, well, we still had plenty of museums to raid.